Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're plunging into the depths to unearth a creature many of us think we know, but which holds far more mystery than meets the eye. Leviathan.
hmm
When you first hear that name, perhaps you picture, a monstrous sea beast, a literal animal.
Yeah, or maybe even dinosaurs, right?
Exactly,
Right.
especially from certain readings of the Book of Job.
It's a common misconception, definitely. And honestly, it's kind of a missed opportunity because Leviathan is, well, it's far more complex than just some big animal.
Right.
You might think big fish, maybe, but we're about to dive much, much deeper.
So our mission today is to get beyond those surface descriptions.
Right, uncover what Leviathan really is. We'll
Yeah.
trace its ancient origins, its uh, profound symbolic meaning, and its truly surprising connections across a whole tapestry of diverse ancient mythologies.
And as we piece that together, we'll see this fascinating kind of recurring pattern emerge in human thought, won't we?
We absolutely will.
And this whole deep dive is built from the insights in our source material today. Excerpts from an audio deep dive called What is the Leviathan and What Can It Tell Us About Ancient Religions.mp3.
Great source for this.
So let's begin this exploration. Where do we start? The name itself.
Let's start right there. The word Leviathan, it's singular. That's actually a crucial clue.
Singular, okay.
Yeah, it refers to a specific individual. Think like the Minotaur or the Hydra in Greek mythology. It's not a species, it's a Leviathan.
Gotcha. And the etymology is even more telling, isn't it? What does it actually mean?
Its name translates to something like the twisting one or the wreath-like one, maybe even the circular one.
The twisting one,
Yeah.
circular one. What does that immediately suggest to you?
Well, it makes you think of a snake, doesn't it?
Definitely.
Particularly one in maybe an Ouroboros position. You know that image of a serpent encircling the earth?
Oh, yes.
Scholars suggest this hints at Leviathan being a kind of primeval sea serpent that wraps around the world. And this was a belief some of Israel's neighbors also held.
Oh, interesting. Like who?
Well, you see echoes in ancient Babylonian artwork. These depictions of a giant serpent coiled around the world, almost holding it up.
Wow.
And it's very reminiscent of Jörmungandr, the Norse world
Hey,
serpent.
Midgard serpent, yeah. Also surrounds the earth.
Exactly. So that circular encompassing idea seems key.
Okay, that's a powerful image. But where do we actually see Leviathan in the Hebrew Bible itself? How often does it pop up?
It appears only 6 times, believe it or not.
Only 6.
Yeah. And often, quite briefly, it's almost like the text assumes the reader already knows what it is. It's just sort of name dropped.
Right, like, oh, yeah, that guy.
Pretty much. Its most detailed description is, as you mentioned, in the book of Job.
Okay, Job. Let's dig into that. Leviathan and Behemoth are mentioned there.
Correct. They come up in this really powerful speech given by Yahweh God to Job. Job's been questioning his immense suffering. Why me?
And God's response involves describing these massive creatures. What's the point?
It's rhetorical, really. Yahweh uses them to illustrate humanity's, weakness and ignorance compared to God's incomprehensible power and wisdom.
So it's like God saying, you think you have problems, you can't even handle this.
That's a good way to put it. He asks Job these questions like, can you cast Leviathan with a hook? Can you tie its tongue? Can you subdue it?
And the answer is obviously no.
A resounding no. The text itself emphasizes that the mere sight of it is overpowering. Humans just have no chance against it.
And the physical description backs that up, right? It sounds terrifying.
Absolutely formidable. It's got a double coat of armor, rows of shields tightly sealed together,
Yeah.
basically impenetrable to human weapons.
Swords, spears, none of that work.
Nope. Swords, spears, javelins, useless. It treats iron like straw and bronze like rotten wood. Arrows, sling stones, clubs, they just bounce off.
Wow. And its appearance, you mentioned teeth and eyes.
Oh, yeah. Its mouth is ringed with fearsome teeth. Its eyes are like the rays of dawn, kind of eerie.
And it breathes fire like a dragon.
It breathes fire, emits smoke. Yeah, very much like a dragon. Plus, it's depicted as just immensely strong and massive.
Where does its strength lie, according to Job?
Its strength resides in its neck, the text says, and the folds of his flesh are tightly joined. Its chest is hard as a rock.
And it stirs up the sea.
It makes the deep churn like a boiling cauldron. Just immense power.
Okay, so after all those intense descriptions in Job, what's the scholarly take? Is this meant to be a literal animal the author saw, or something else?
The consensus is pretty clear. It's not a literal creature. not something Job or the author actually encountered.
So it's symbolic.
Exactly. It's a
Yeah.
powerful symbol of God's absolute supremacy and, well, humanity's utter insignificance in the face of that kind of cosmic power. It's meant to put Job in his place.
Makes sense. So if Job is about God's power over Leviathan, what about his other appearances? You said Psalms.
Yes, in songs, we get this curious detail about its role in creation. One passage says God crushed the heads of Leviathan.
Heads, plural.
Plural, yeah. Notice that. Crushed the heads and gave its corpses food to the creatures of the desert. This happens alongside other acts of creation, like splitting the sea.
So that implies some kind of past cosmic battle happened at creation.
It strongly suggests it, yes. A battle before the orderly creation we read about in Genesis 1, perhaps.
But then, doesn't another psalm say it's alive?
That's the puzzle. Another psalm describes Leviathan as alive, playing in the sea, one of God's creations that God provides for.
So, how can it be both dead, with its heads crushed, and alive, playing in the sea?
That's a great question. It probably hints at different traditions or maybe different layers of mythology being woven together within the biblical texts themselves, not always perfectly harmonized.
Okay, interesting. And then there's Isaiah. What's Leviathan's role there?
In Isaiah, Leviathan has a future role. It's prophesied that in that day, God will punish Leviathan the fugitive serpent and Leviathan the crooked serpent.
Serpent again, fugitive and crooked.
Yes, and God will slay the dragon that is in the sea. So it's a future battle this time, but still framed as a serpent, a dragon in the sea.
And Amos, any quick mention there?
Amos briefly mentions it too, describing it as a serpent lurking at the bottom of the ocean, ready to bite God's enemies if they try to hide there.
Always the serpent, always the sea. Now, what's this connection to another figure, Rahab?
Rahab, yes. This is really interesting. Sometimes Rahab is just a nickname for Egypt in the Old Testament.
Right, I've heard that.
But other times, Rahab appears as a distinct mythological creature, very much like Leviathan.
What are the parallels? How similar are they?
Strikingly similar.
Mhm.
Rahab is also described as a fugitive serpent, also associated with the sea, with chaos. And God is depicted in similar terms, having shattered or cut Rahab in pieces and pierced the dragon.
So wait, fugitive serpent, sea, dragon, pierced by God. This sounds almost identical to Leviathan.
It really does.
Yeah.
And the scholarly consensus basically holds that Rahab and Leviathan are, effectively, two names for the same entity, or at least drawn from the same mythological pool.
Used interchangeably sometimes.
Often, yes. Both are linked to God controlling the chaotic ocean, perhaps as part of creation. And even Rahab's name connects its link to words meaning rage, tremble, especially to overflow, like water.
Fits the sea chaos theme perfectly.
Exactly. It underscores that deep connection.
Okay, this naturally brings us to this core idea you mentioned earlier, chaos scamp. Can you unpack that for us? What does that term mean?
Right. Chaos camp, it literally translates from German as chaos struggle or chaos battle.
Chaos battle.
Yeah. The core idea applied here is that Leviathan isn't just any monster. It represents a primordial sea serpent, which God battled at the beginning of time in order to create the universe.
So God battles chaos embodied by Leviathan to bring order.
Precisely. Bringing order from chaos. And what's truly fascinating is the theory, pretty widely held now, that the Genesis 1 creation story, the 7 days, that it's actually a demythologized version of this older Leviathan creation story. An earlier version might have explicitly described the battle, but Genesis 1 sort of sanitized it, focusing only on God speaking order into existence, perhaps downplaying the conflict aspect.
Wow. Okay. So the battle might have been edited out, or maybe just implied.
Something like that. The conflict with the waters is still there in Genesis, but the explicit monster is gone.
Now, here's where it gets really expansive, because this chaos camp idea, it wasn't just an Israelite thing, was it? You mentioned neighbors.
Not at all. We see incredibly strong echoes of this same basic story pattern in the mythologies of their direct cultural neighbors. It's quite striking.
Like who? Give us an example.
Okay, we'll take Canaanite mythology from
Yep.
Ugarit. We have texts called the Baal cycle.
Baal, the storm god.
That's the one. In these texts, Baal battles a sea dragon named Lotan, sometimes called the Litten.
Lotan sounds a bit like a Leviathan.
Very similar. And listen to this. Lotan is described as a 7-headed sea dragon.
7 heads, like Leviathan's plural heads in Psalms.
Exactly. And Lotan has almost identical titles. He's called the Twisting Serpent, just like Leviathan. Same sea association, multiple heads, defeated by a powerful god, often a storm god.
The parallels are uncanny.
They are. It's so close that Isaiah 27.1, where it talks about punishing Leviathan, the twisting serpent, it seems to be almost directly quoting lines from the Baal epic about Lotan.
So direct influence seems highly likely there.
Very likely, yes. The Israelites would have known these Canaanite stories.
Okay, who else? Babylonians.
Definitely. Look at the Babylonian creation epic, the Enuma Elish.
Right, Marduk and Tiamat.
Exactly. Tiamat is this embodiment of chaotic saltwater, often depicted as a giant sea serpent or dragon. She's battled by Marduk, who is, guess what?
A storm god.
Bingo, a storm god. Marduk defeats Tiamat, kills her, and then dismembers her body.
Then uses the parts to create the world.
Uses her body to create the heavens and the earth. Again, you see the core elements. Storm god versus chaos serpent, dismemberment, cosmic creation resulting from the battle.
It's the same fundamental story structure.
It really is.
Yeah.
And modern scholarship generally suggests that imagery and, well, the whole narrative structure from these older Babylonian and Canaanite stories were absorbed and adapted into the Bible.
So the biblical authors sort of reappropriated the story.
You could say that. They kept the essence of the story pattern they heard from their neighbors, but they recast it with their own characters, Yahweh, instead of Baal or Marduk, and integrated it into their own theological framework.
Okay, but this chaos camp thing,
Yeah.
it goes even wider than just the ancient Near East. Right, you said this is like a global phenomenon.
It appears to be, yeah. This basic trope, a god battling a chaos serpent, it seems to pop up in seemingly separate religions all over the world. It's like a popular mythic meme that just spread everywhere.
Give us some more examples. This is fascinating.
Okay, well, in Greek mythology, you have Zeus battling the monster Typhon, who's often described as serpentine, with multiple heads.
Typhon, right.
In Egyptian mythology, the sun god Ra has to battle the chaos serpent Apep every single night as his sunboat travels through the underworld.
Apep, okay.
In Norse mythology, Thor's final battle at Ragnarok is against Jörmungandr, the world serpent we mentioned earlier.
Thor and the serpent, yeah.
In Hindu mythology, the storm god Indra battles the serpent or dragon Vritra, who is hoarding all the waters. Indra slays him to release the waters, allowing for creation.
Indra and Vritra, it keeps repeating.
It does. And you find elements of this story, a heroic figure or god battling a serpentine water monster, even as far afield as Japan. And some scholars argue for versions in the Americas too.
What are the absolute core similarities we see across almost all these versions?
You almost always have a sea creature, often multi-headed or serpentine, embodying chaos, primordial chaos usually. Then you have its opponent, very often a god associated with sky phenomena, particularly thunderstorms.
The storm god connection seems really strong.
It's very common. And crucially, the serpent always loses. Order triumphs over chaos.
So why? Why is this specific story so widespread? How did it get everywhere?
Well, there are two main theories, and they're probably both partly true. One is cultural diffusion.
Ideas spreading from culture to culture.
Exactly. Like the Canaanite influence on Israel. Stories travel, people hear them, adapt them. The other possibility, maybe deeper, is common origin.
Meaning they all inherited it from the same ancient source?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the Proto-Indo-Europeans.
Okay, the Proto-Indo-Europeans. Who were they?
They were a hypothesized ancient people living probably somewhere in the Pontic-Caspian steppe region around, say, the late Neolithic, maybe 4,500 to 2,500 BCE.
A long time ago.
Very long time ago. We don't have writing from them, but linguists and mythologists have reconstructed aspects of their language and, intriguingly, their mythology by comparing the languages and myths of their descendants.
Descendants, like, whoa.
People spread across a vast area from ancient India and Iran through Greece, Rome, the Celtic lands, Germanic lands, Slavic lands, basically most of Europe and parts of South Asia. Their languages all stem from Proto-Indo-European.
And the idea is that their myths might also share a common ancestor.
That's the theory. That many of the descendants retain similar myths, suggesting these are holdovers, echoes from their shared ancestral religion from thousands of years ago.
And is the Chaos Camp one of those potential holdovers?
It's considered one of the strongest candidates, yes. The pattern fits very well across many Indo-European branches, the storm god fighting the serpent.
Are there other reconstructed Proto-Indo-European myths?
Oh yeah, several plausible ones, like the idea of the sun and moon riding in chariots across the sky.
Okay.
A creation story involving two brothers, one of whom is sacrificed to create the world. Think like Ymir in Norse myth, or Purusha in Hindu texts.
Right.
An underworld that's guarded by a watchdog, maybe multi-headed, or reached by crossing a river with a ferryman.
That's familiar.
And a world tree, often bearing fruit of immortality, which is frequently guarded by, guess what?
A serpent or dragon?
The serpent or dragon, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes tended by 3 feet-like
It's
goddesses.
amazing how these patterns recur.
It really is.
Yeah.
So seeing these widespread similarities, especially for the Chaos Camp, it strongly suggests either incredibly extensive ancient exchange of ideas across continents.
Or perhaps more profoundly, a genuinely shared prehistoric religion whose core stories just kept getting retold and adapted for millennia.
Exactly. It makes you wonder how much of our fundamental understanding of the world, of order versus chaos, was shaped way back then by these foundational narratives.
So let's try and recap this journey. Leviathan. Definitely, absolutely not a dinosaur or just some literal big animal described in Job.
Nope. It's an ancient mythological creature, a symbol.
Probably originating way back with these prehistoric Proto-Indo-Europeans, or at least part of that widespread chaos camp myth.
Yeah, that myth seems to have spread maybe through diffusion, maybe common origin, or both. And it was eventually adopted and adapted into the biblical canon by the Israelites, likely influenced by their Canaanite and Babylonian neighbors.
It's really a remnant of an older age, isn't it?
It truly is. And it gives us this amazing insight, not just into the origins of specific religions, but into how deeply connected the ancient world actually was, sharing these fundamental story structures.
It's almost like, as the source said, it's essentially just a meme that caught on thousands of years ago.
That's a pretty good way to think about it, yeah. A very powerful, enduring meme.
Okay, so here's a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to chew on as we wrap up. Think about the Old Testament battle. Yahweh versus Leviathan, order versus chaos serpent. Now, fast forward to the New Testament, especially the book of Revelation.
Okay.
You have prophecies of Jesus Christ versus Satan, often depicted as the dragon, that ancient serpent.
Ah, the parallels.
The resemblance is pretty striking, isn't it? It seems very likely that the author of Revelation consciously modeled the ultimate cosmic enemy, Satan, on this ancient, deeply embedded chaos camp trope.
Using that familiar pattern of the divine ward conquering the chaos dragon.
Exactly. So does that speak to some deeper, shared human psychological need to frame conflict this way, confronting chaos? Or maybe, as our source material kind of humorously suggested, maybe humans just seem to hate snakes.
Food for thought indeed. A lot to unpack there.